Good morning. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our weekly e-learning session. My name is Dwayne Henderson, a member of Cree Lighting's training and education team and host of our e-learning series. For those watching live, happy Friday. Quickly about the session, once we get started, we'll have roughly 15 minutes of content. Our presenter will be available for Q&A at the end of their presentation. And although the participants are muted, we do encourage you all to use the chat and Q&A box questions. Please feel free to do that during the presentation. They will introduce a new white paper that we are releasing regarding human factors, the impact on education facilities. Here's where I normally would introduce our presenter, but today I'm wearing two hats as both your host and presenter. So quickly about my role in the business, I lead our training and education efforts. And today that means providing a lot more e-learning content, including our e-learning series. So enough about me, let's get started. Before we get into our white paper, I thought it'd be interesting to put ourselves in the shoes of a school board member, and let's assume we were voting on a circadian classroom lighting system. And again, with little lighting now, you're expected to kind of manage all of that. And some of the things you might think about might be, what's the overall cost of the system in terms of economics? There's going to be some energy and maintenance savings. How quickly is it going to pay back? What might that return on investment look like? You might also consider, is there a funding source available for the project? And if it's a public school, are the taxpayers willing to support the initiative? Probably further down on the list is the part that we're most interested in today in terms of the improved experience. And could this new system improve the experience for teachers and students? And probably even more interesting would be educational results that are happening within the school itself. So kind of chew on that for a little bit, and we're going to get started on the presentation itself in terms of the white paper. Now, what we'll do is we'll go through page by page, and really the goal is to kind of give you a flavor of what's in the white paper. So we'll dive deeper on some pages than others, but I do want people to walk away with an understanding of what's in it, and then maybe be thinking about how you're going to use it and leverage this in the marketplace. So the cover page says ready or not, and then below it, the statement is, we know that lighting has to significantly affect health, performance, and well-being, but do we know enough today to apply this knowledge wisely in our schools? And that does a really great job of kind of summarizing where this piece is going to go. In terms of why are we creating a white paper around this topic? Well, lighting for well-being is an important topic, but it's also pretty complicated, quite honestly. And Cree Lighting, as a leader in the industry, I think we can do the industry a service by lending our voice to this discussion and helping educate the industry around this really important topic. In addition, schools are valuable spaces, and beyond lighting, right, most of us likely have had kids or have kids in a school somewhere, or maybe grandkids, depending on what stage of life that we're in. We're all interested in making certain that these spaces are healthy and successful places to educate our youth. And then lastly, education is an important vertical for Cree Lighting, and a document like this demonstrates our commitment to this vertical. It also lets us show our customers that we kind of understand some of the things that they're going, that they're considering and trying to work through. This is, again, even for lighting people, this can be a really complex topic to kind of tackle. So what is an objective voice to the conversation? So as we dig into the white paper, it's not a sales piece for sure. And then the other thing you'll notice, it does look at kind of both sides of the coin. So it's not ready and ready. It's some people might be ready, some people might not be, and what are the factors you want to consider to arrive at that decision. So the overview starts, and again, we'll go through this page by page, but the overview basically is the lighting industry is offering solutions for health and well-being, and a lot of that is targeting educational facilities. So Cree Lighting is not unique in looking at the educational space as an important vertical. And then the types of systems that we might be talking about or people should be considering would be ones that recreate elements of the natural lighting experience. And if you think about our Radiant Dynamic Skylight, we have that follow the sun profile. That's kind of creating a natural experience where there's really no need for human interaction to kind of move it to different spots. It just kind of happens naturally. And then other systems enable educators to configure color temperatures, for maybe some positive results they might be after. And again, example for us would be we have a color changing wall control that does allow rooms to be cooled or warmed in terms of the color temperature. Other manufacturers might offer something that has a button that says, hey, this is the reading setting, this is the testing setting. And all that's really designed is to give educators a little bit more control of the classroom and try to use lighting to gain positive results. So the point would be, and there's going to be a counterpoint, but the point would be that non-tunable lighting systems impact teachers and students today, and we can do better. So some people want to just ignore it altogether, and no decision is a decision. So if you decide we're just going to put something in and not think about it, it doesn't mean you're not affecting people's well-being with those types of systems. And then there's the risk of falling behind schools that are implementing more advanced lighting solutions. So whether it's school choice or just hey, everybody's grades are in school is shown on I go online, right, and I can find out how well a school is performing. And if some of these systems, you have some schools a competitive advantage, not acting to put you at a disadvantage. And then the counterpoint would be, the knowledge is just not complete yet, and we need more studies. We need more. Some people will think, hey, before we move forward, we need more. We need to see more evidence that this is really something that warrants us going forward with such a system. So again, there are two sides to this point. Kind of what we know, if you look at kind of human existence, electric light has been, just not even a blink of the eye, right? It's just a fractional amount of time that humans have been on the earth. And we don't have to go back thousands of years. If you look at maybe your great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather, they likely were a farmer, and they certainly spent a lot of time outside, and their light experience was much different than ours. And in modern society, most of us spend about 90% of our time indoors, and that might not always be the best thing for us in terms of the way we've learned and thrived as a people. Again, this is kind of educating non-lighting people as well. So what has LED lighting brought? And we all know, right, the energy savings, they last a really long to maintenance savings. So that's the stuff that we've used traditionally to sell and improve the worth of these types of systems. But LEDs also provide cost-effective ways of tuning the color of a source, which we really couldn't do with other technologies. So now this opens up new possibilities. And probably more important with where we're going is paying special attention to the spectral power distribution and the spectral makeup or content of the light source in terms of what we're trying to deliver. So in 2017, 3 scientists won a Nobel Prize. They identified a non-visual type of photoreceptor. It's called an intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cell. And if you can say that fast 3 times, you probably win a prize. But so these non-visual photoreceptors basically help synchronize our circadian rhythms. And we're all on these 24-hour-a-day, roughly cycles of wave. And synchronizing that cycle, we produce something called melatonin, and during the daytime, under natural light, melatonin is suppressed. Melatonin basically invites sleep, so during the daytime hours, suppressing melatonin, so we're alert and able to function and be productive. But then as we get into the evening hours, melatonin levels begin to increase. That's what invites sleep, and then sleep becomes less able to resist sleep and fall asleep. And as we're getting that restful sleep, we're kind of improving protecting our immune systems, we're lowering stress, we're reducing possibilities of other types of diseases. And that misalignment has some negative effects in terms of increased agitation, chronic fatigue, inability to concentrate, and increased risk for various diseases. So, ignoring this is kind of potentially compromising quality of life of people. So it is something we need to pay attention to. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but we do have in the far right there on the top row, we reduce depression. And if I think most of us have recognized as we're moving in the fall and in the winter after that, the amount of daylight hours is decreasing, and seasonal affective disorder is basically depression that typically happens in the fall and winter as those daylight hours are shortened. I bring that up because we've used light therapy or light as a therapy beyond just vision to kind of treat that disorder. And some of this stuff might seem really complicated and difficult, but it's not new in terms of us trying to use light in ways other than affecting visual tasks. So what this could mean for educators, evidence to date regarding circadian tune systems does suggest that we get improved alertness. And as we go through this, let's think about, again, the classroom setting, and certainly that's probably a benefit. Improved energy levels, mood support for students, faculty, and administrators, and then improved student-teacher satisfaction with learning and their environment. Now, the question is, hey, does human-centric lighting improve students' grades and test scores? That's kind of the holy grail in this space. And the white paper will talk about, hey, we're probably not there yet to be able to make that statement to people. But this page continues with 5 studies that are going on, and some of the early evidence that have been found. And then at the bottom, there's footnotes for people that want more information about this to kind of grab onto that. So the evidence seems to suggest there's something to this, and absolutely more study is going on in this area as well. The next page talks about harnessing a complex science, and unfortunately, there's not an easy button. There's a lot of effort that goes into kind of what you want to think about. And we talked a little bit about, CCT does not equate to spectral content. So that's something that, in the color probably isn't enough. You probably need to know a little bit more about the system that's being implemented. And then even things like, hey, what's the amount of intensity that is the right amount? And in terms of that spectrum, it's maybe not a static spectrum either. It's like, how is that spectrum change during the course of the day to get the results that we're after? When should that type of stuff be happening? Where should it be happening? How long? Should there be different guidelines for age, sex, and other biological differences that should be considered? And then lastly, are there other important non-visual effects that we haven't even identified yet that might change the way we're thinking, both in a positive or negative way? But with all that, there are still people that are ready to adopt, and they can do so flying completely blindly. UL has come out with some design guidelines for promoting circadian entrainment. We also have the Well Building Institute and the Well Building Standard that we've covered in the previous session that also provides some guidance on this. So again, if people do want to go down this path, there is some help out there to give you some direction. Those that beg to differ, again, talk about the biological differences among people, and then there's also independent behavior and environmental factors. So I'll use an example of maybe 2 people that work at the same office, and one person's routine is to get up in the morning and go for a 45-minute walk outside on a sunny day. They do that every morning, get home, grab a shower, and go to work. The other person just rolls out of bed, grabs a shower, and goes to work. So they're arriving at work in different states in terms of what they've been exposed to in terms of lighting. And now we have this common area, and how do we do we need to be aware of that, or is that okay? I mean, those are the types of things that we kind of think about. The other thing, for lighting designers, it's certainly not getting easier. And are we almost thinking about lighting designers as prescribing light? And a lot of them are, in the absence of really standards we can follow. That's something that a lot of them would like to avoid. Unfortunately, the downside, as we mentioned before, if you ignore it, you're still influencing people in these types of spaces. And the other part is documenting and assigning economic value to non-energy benefits. In some of the earlier sessions, we talked about a common theme of brighter days and darker nights. And brighter days means, we probably want to consume more energy to, again, invest in people and their well-being. And the energy cost is something you can see and feel and put economic value to, but some of these other things that we're talking about, it's a little bit more difficult. So where do we go from here? This page actually does show the cadence. So I call this a really soft sell, even on this page, where we talk a little bit about the cadence dynamic skylight and what it can do. And then you kind of look at some of the critics in terms of what they acknowledge, and even most people that might not be ready to go today say, there are some current benefits that can be had by going today. And I think there's almost complete agreement that, compelling promise for the future in terms of what's going to be happening around this topic. It continues with identifying, educational facilities as one of those spaces that we expect to be early adopters. So, that's absolutely one of the reasons we're doing this white paper and interested in this space. Another early adopter is healthcare, and what you'll see from us is another of this. white paper, but with a focus on healthcare. Since you're calling on the healthcare vertical, we'll have a piece that's designed to speak to that audience. And again, really important to our business and also expected to be early adopters. Another group will be of early adopters is likely going to be assisted living facilities. Now, white paper might not be quite this strong, but I think the reality is this stuff is happening, and whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you are going to see more and more of this happening. And I think at some point, in the not too distant future, you'll see products and people like just expecting that all light fixtures provide some level of lighting that meets their needs in terms of well-being. So the concept of future proofing, future readiness is sometimes another term that's used to kind of describe this. Is even if you're not ready today or think the science isn't far enough along, you know, buying a product with some enablement of being able to turn some of this stuff on in the future is almost like an insurance policy where, you know, if 2 years from now the science comes out and says, hey, we should be doing exactly this, you can kind of move and do that. And if you bought a product that doesn't have that level of capability, again, you're in 2 years of that purchase, it's unlikely that you're going to say, hey, yeah, rip out all that stuff, and we're going to buy a brand new lighting system. So again, thinking about that, or at least understanding or evaluating what the cost of getting some of that future enablement might be is an important concept that customers should be made aware of. So that concludes the white paper. There's the front and the back cover. In terms of the launch plan, we are going to have a multi-channel rollout in the coming weeks. There will be a banner promoting it on creelighting.com. Today, it's on Cree Link, so if you search by white paper, it'll come up on Cree Lighting Link. For those that don't have access to Cree Lighting Link, my contact information will be up, or if you have problems finding it, please shoot me an email, and I can email you the document itself. So we're going to go back to the school board meeting here, and you know, I think a paper like this will certainly help educate this type of audience. So we can think about how this could be used and utilized. The other thing we didn't talk about in the white paper is this concept of cost of waiting. So if you think, hey, the science isn't there yet, we're going to wait a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. While you're waiting, especially if you're using incumbent technology, right, you're giving away and foregoing energy savings today and foregoing maintenance savings today. And at some point, you can't recapture that. So as you talk to these types of customers, that's one thing we want to make certain people are aware of. And I think, you know, most of you know Eric Elgard is one of our colleagues, really sharp guy. He actually did a couple of sessions on CM30 for us in the e-learning series, and he uses this kind of trusted advisor, which I really like. And I think it's what we want to try to strive to be for our customers. And if you're talking to a board member, for example, the school board, you know, you answer all the questions that they have. And then maybe there's some questions they didn't ask that they should have asked, and we're going to share that knowledge with them and say, you know, you didn't ask about this, but you really should also be thinking about this as part of your decision-making process. And then the goal is really to maximize the value. And some of the customers are going to be ready and are going to move to these types of systems, and some of the customers are not. We can help both, right? We have systems that can help people go to, you know, these more fully wellness connected type systems to stuff that's pretty static. And that's okay, whichever way they want to go. The goal for us really should be to maximize the value that we deliver to the customer, not to sell a system that doesn't meet what their needs and expectations are, both for today and the future. All right, so with that, I will check and to see if we have any questions. I don't see anything in the Q&A box or the chat box. If you do have any questions, please let me know. And wait to see if something turns up. I do want to make a plug for some earlier sessions that we did featuring Shirley Coyle. The first e-learning session we did was back on April 1st, and Shirley did that one. It was called Understanding the Effects of Lighting on Human Health. So that's a really great session. It does a great job on this topic. As part of the three-part series, it was followed up with the Well Building Standard in lighting, and then the third part of the trilogy was case studies on lighting and human health. So this can be a complex topic. If you didn't see these, I'd encourage you to watch them. Even if you did see them, I think there's some benefit of watching them again. Again, I think the more we understand this topic, the better resource we can be to our customers. All right, checking again here. I'm not seeing any questions. If you do have anything or want to take anything offline, there's my contact information. If you do need or having difficulty finding the white paper, please feel free to shoot me a note. We look forward to the upcoming sessions on Friday, September 18th. Next week, we will have an inside look at layout creation with a focus on the outdoor space. We'll be joined by Jim Blair for that. And then in 2 weeks, Shirley Quayle will be joining us once again. And we'll talk about lighting for long-term care facilities. So that's what's coming up. Again, if you missed any sessions, all the sessions are being recorded and are available on the Cree Lighting YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed, we encourage you to do that. With that, I thank everybody for your time and enjoy your weekend all.